I'm on the phone most of the day, talking with insurance companies, trying to resolve a claim that has not been paid correctly. We don't give up.
They were able to come out and give a full, in-depth inspection. That process ultimately led to a doubling of the claim.
He probably got me, at least on this roof, $50,000 more by my calculation than I would have gotten with the other roofers.
It goes far beyond what a normal roofing company would do. We're going to do it right.
McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma back on the air on live radio Saturday morning, freedom969.com or freedom96.9. And we are indeed live streaming on the McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah, we're finally, I grabbed the intern off from the coffee maker and had him come in and get to work. So Roof RX, gentlemen, we were talking about Roof RX and maintenance. That's really the that's really the key to Roof RX, right?
Well, I think it's the whole thing. It's, you know, you start with that qualified inspection, and that's really where we start with everything in McRoof. That's where we start with everything, have traditionally started with everything in Roof RX. With the advent or the inclusion of Blue Falcon Aerial into Roof RX, you know, we went with the idea of having the drone inspections to where we get all the aerial imagery and everything else.
Right.
And now we're kind of morphing that a little bit in terms of McRoof powered by Roof RX with a boots on the roof inspection and a drone inspection. The reason for that is, Chris will get into, has to do with the way that we're annotating our images and kind of training our AI. That's on down the road. But Chris, right now, what is it that really makes a Roof RX inspection different from what anybody else in the marketplace delivers?
Absolutely, and it all starts with the initial data collection. How is that data collected? What is the integrity of that data and the fidelity of it? So I know I just was on just had that little spot right there where I talked about being at Francis Tuttle. Well, let's go back a second. So why are we at Francis Tuttle, at Blue Falcon Aerial? We were actually brought there to build up a program where we can teach drone pilots how to do surveying. And this is something that requires incredible amount of accuracy and precision, because those surveyors are trusting the data that's collected in a legal capacity. This is the highest level of standard on that. Well, we actually have seen so much opportunity in the roofing sphere on things that we can do to really bring that sort of level of accuracy and precision and fidelity into what we can do for this industry. And I know you and I have had many conversations about this as far as what is a drone inspection and how does that work along with what you guys are doing at McRoof and Roof RX. So ultimately, the data that we provide is the highest quality possible. And this is using the right camera, the right pilots, the right shot profile, ensuring that we are crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's, and we want to make sure that we are providing the data that is needed to provide the best inspection that we can do from the aerial side of it.
Right.
Now, we're not going to say that a drone inspection is going to be the equivalency of a boots in the roof inspection, but what we can say is a great pre-qualifier and is a really good way for us to get a general assessment without having to have a Scott or Scotty McCollum or Johnny or Kelvin, someone of that capacity getting on the roof and verifying. Right. So when they get out there, they already know the general condition, and we can essentially give a really good understanding for that homeowner without having to bring someone of that capacity out there.
You know, and with the thing that I hear constantly from everyone who looks at the images, including my own team at McRoof, is we've never seen images like this before. Why is that, Chris?
Well, it all goes back to the actual drone camera.
Okay.
And the camera itself is, by design, larger. It is a larger camera. And so most of the industry is using a pinhole size camera, something similar to what's on your iPhone.
Okay.
Ours is closer to what a Nikon is. Well, the larger the camera, the better the data. This shouldn't be that hard for people to grasp, but for some reason, this is actually really, really difficult for people to fully understand. So we do have that extremely large camera that has a very high shutter speed, very high clarity and fidelity. And so when we snap those individual photos, you can go way past and zoom in and see all those little micro details that no one else can, which really allows for our credentialed inspectors to actually have the best possible data from the aerial capture.
Right. And then with their credentials, they can interpret that data because it is such good data for them to look at.
Exactly, and that is it.
What about I know that there are a lot of drone networks. There's all kinds of pilot organizations and all kinds of people out doing all kinds of surveying and mapping and roofing stuff, all that kind of thing. But what is it about the way that you guys go into the field that makes what we do exactly what we need? I've seen grainy images. I've seen images that were taken where a roof was wet or had a lot of shadows on it. I've seen images that look like they're really, really far away from the roof surface. I've seen all kinds of garbage, in other words, is what I'm saying. How do you keep that from happening?
It actually goes back to quality control. That is ultimately what we do. Every data set that comes to us goes through, at the bare minimum, 2 different levels of quality control. So 2 different people will see those images and validate that it is the standard we need before we accept the work from that pilot. And if not, they will have to go back out and do it.
Oh, wow.
Now, the other side here as well is usually a drone service provider, as they start to grow and they start to get to a point where they can start scaling, most drone service providers will actually start to go to adjacent industries. Hey, let's go do surveying. Let's do oil and gas. Let's do telecommunications or windmills. We took an opposite approach. We said, we have now grown to the point we need to get better at doing this one thing really, really, really well. Yeah. So it's really taking that level of craftsmanship into this industry and learning as deep as possible what are the individual needs of the clients that we serve.
Well, and that's attractive to me. I've always said in the McRoof.us, we do one thing better than anybody else. We build certainty and integrity roof systems. It just is. It's easier for me to be able to wrap my head around, be able to manage, be able to train, be able to know what your outcomes are going to be, instead of trying to be all things to all people. And that's the approach that you're taking in the drone world too, is to let's not try to be all things to all people. Let's get to where we have this perfected. We are the state of the art in terms of that, and that's where we want to be. So that's really exciting. Now, I know that there's a lot of stuff that people ask us to do from a drone standpoint. They'll ask us to do thermal imaging for them. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thermal is a phenomenal technology, and essentially what we can do with the thermal imaging is that the thermal is looking at differences in temperature. And so during the day, the roof surface is heating up, and as night falls, the roof is cooling down. However, you have the water that's inside the roof's membrane is going to load, and it's going to show as a higher temperature because it is slowly emissiving. I can't talk today, but it is releasing the heat at a lesser rate than the rest of the surface.
Reflectivity and emissivity.
Exactly. And so ultimately what we can do is we can show water under the subsurface of a roof,
right? Because
it's clear as day, and you've seen it. It is is extremely
well,
obvious.
And I spoke with William last night. I'm going to speak with him again this morning about his thermal. Mm-hmm. And, it's amazing. We look at that office building and we've got probably, 50 or 60 different issues that come up in the thermal that we may have identified 15 or 20 of those in our boots on the roof inspection because we can't see underneath what's on the surface, but the thermal does that for us. And we've got somebody who that is their specialty and their expertise. We can talk about that when we come back, Chris.
Sounds great.
All right. So we're about to take our break. I want to remind you that you're listening to McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma on Freedom 96.9, and we will have extra trivia when we come back because I forgot to do it when we got back from break. I was so fond of the intern having fixed the live stream.
I think that was the janitor. I got her out.
Anyway, more with Chris Guarnera, Scott McCullum, Rick Allen Lippert here, and you won't hear from Retro Radio Randy, but you can still call a question with a question. We'll be right back.
The best way to stay up to date on the issues that impact your life is to listen to the new Freedom 96.9 and freedom969.com. Mornings at noon and on your way home from work. Oklahoma's Talk Radio. Freedom
Weather. Here's your Oklahoma City AccuWeather forecast. This afternoon, expect mostly sunny skies with a high of 95. Tonight will be clear and humid with a low of 73. Tomorrow morning will be breezy, then intervals of clouds and sunshine with a high of 93. On Monday, a mix of sun and clouds with a high of 93. Tuesday will be partly sunny with a high of 91. Wednesday morning brings a thunderstorm followed by partly sunny and humid conditions with a high of 87. With your Oklahoma City AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
We interrupt our program with a special bulletin. The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the speakers and other contributors. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of this station.
McRoof Fortifies, Oklahoma, back on the air for the second half of this morning's live show on Freedom 96.9. Hey, Scott, ever ridden a loop-the-loop roller coaster?
Yeah.
It's been a while, though.
Yes, it has.
On this date in 1898, Edwin Prescott patented the first vertical loop-the-loop roller coaster.
Wow.
Built it at Coney Island.
Whew, I bet that was a rickety dude.
Yeah, I bet it was. Now, I don't do much sports trivia on here because there's, frankly, just too much out there. But today, it warrants mention that on this date in 1927, Yankee slugger Babe Ruth hit his first home run.
Bambino.
Out of Comiskey Park in Chicago.
Wow.
On this date in 1930, the first color sound cartoon was released. Fiddlesticks was the name of it. It was done by Ube Iwerks, who used to work for Walt Disney. And then on this date of 1954, the first publication of Sports Illustrated.
Wow.
How about that? Okay, so coming up this week, you've invited me, and I've accepted the invitation to go to the Code Compliant Roofing seminar. And tell me, what am I getting into?
Well, this is the Oklahoma Roofing Contractors Association is presenting code compliant roofing for members and non-members. City of Oklahoma City, as we all know, August the 1st started issuing re-roof permits for any re-roof over 500 square feet. Along with that comes some form of inspection protocols. And I think everyone is still kind of wondering what that is and working through all the details of that. But there are a ton of things in the International Residential Code 2018 version as amended and adopted by the Oklahoma Uniform Building Code Commission that most roofers don't know about.
Oh, my goodness.
Not to mention the level of knowledge of the consumers.
And the reason the city adopted these ordinances for code compliance is because?
Well, the city is obviously wanting to do something in an effort to protect the citizens. The city is aware that there are a lot of what we call bootleg roofs going on out there, a lot of roofs being built by people who are not registered roofing contractors with the Construction Industries Board, which is what the statute of the state of Oklahoma requires. This is another level of filtering and protection that can be offered to the consumers. I think that I've always been in the construction trades, whether it was a general contractor or a home builder, or remodeler, or roofing contractor. I've always been the guy on the outside who has been for the strictest enforcement that there could possibly be, because my companies have always built to the highest standards, have always been credentialed and educated and kept up with changes in building science and technology and been innovators. So the highest level of inspection required in any of those areas eliminated a lot of people who could no longer compete with me. unfairly compete with me. All right.
And I believe I've heard you say that building codes are a minimum.
Building codes are a minimum standard, and we talk about it all the time. How many people you go into your doctor and you say, "Man, I just want the minimum you can give me. I don't want to be cured. I just want the bare minimum just to be able to keep breathing." Okay. Yeah. Well, that's not the way we do things. We don't go into the car dealer and say, "Hey, maybe some people do. I understand. But what I'm saying is when it comes to saving lives and protecting property, which is what a roof is, what the main water shedding system of any structure, you don't want the bare minimum. You want something better than that. All right? And so the building code, that's the bare minimum, and I'll say it. I've said it in front of Orca. I've said it in front of building officials. No one builds a roof to comply with the building code in Oklahoma. And the reason that they don't is because roofs have never been paid any attention to. They've never been inspected by inspectors who were really looking at the things that they should be looking at. It's always been kind of a drive-by, wave at it, and say, "Oh yeah, it looks like shingles to me. It's good," kind of thing. We're beyond that. Okay, the pressures from the insurance industry, the pressures in terms of resilience with the changes in the weather patterns, the severity of the storms, all that kind of thing is driving that people understand the concept that we have to do better. Builders have to build better. Homeowners have to repair or replace better. And that's just where we are. And this is a step in that process.
And so this workshop is Thursday morning from 9:30 to 1:30, 4 hours. And you don't have to be a roofing contractor to go, right?
You do not.
You could be an interested homeowner who just wants to make sure that you learn what's going to be going on your roof.
And I would tell you, I would absolutely be amazed if we had a consumer who came to that. But I would pay their admission fee just because an educated consumer is my best friend.
It's $50 dinero, and it includes lunch. How about that?
Yes, it does.
All right, and it's at Innovation Hall. But you need to register in advance so that they have a lunch for you.
Yeah.
And
in your case, you got to order your special diet.
Yeah, so. I got to have the twigs and seeds. And but if someone out there is interested in going, they can go online to Orca Group, ORCA Group.org, and find out more information and register. But I'll
if you want to make it easier than that, just text Scott at 405-600-5587. Tell me you want to go. Give me your name, and I will sign you up.
There you go. Can't get a better deal than that. But now we're going to go up on the roof.
Oh,
I think, and see
if
what
Randy
it looks
can
like
push
up
the right
there.
button.
Uh-oh, Scott, hang on. Oh.
We need to get us a summertime sound thing, So,
just make sure there's no thump at the end of it.
So I was had the opportunity to build a couple of fortified roofs this week.
Good for you.
Really excited to be knocking these out. And in fact, we've done 4 in the last 2 weeks. So it's been a pretty big fortified time for us. And the title this week is Now I get it. And this is what one of my homeowners said as he stood there and watched us build his fortified roof. He was blown away. He could not. First of all, he said, "Man, it's sure taken you a long time. You guys, it's almost lunchtime and y'all haven't even started putting any underlayment down or putting a shingle on or anything else. You sure you're going to finish today?" Kind of thing. Because we have to take everything off.
Right.
We have to mend the deck, and there were decking issues on his roof where there were delamination, some water, some things like that. Take all that off and properly mend it. And then what do we have to do, Chris? We have to
Well, at that time, we need to lay down the OSB. We need to seal it up.
Wait.
Oh,
Let's attach.
oh, that's
Yeah.
right. We got to nail it down.
Okay, we got to nail it
That's right.
down. That's our 13 ring shank nails in every 4-foot dimension at the end of that sheet of
13
OSB.
nails in 4 feet.
13 nails.
Ring shank nails.
Ring shank nails in that 4-foot dimension. Now, on this house, they were 2 3/8 inches long because this house is a single layer of 7/16 OSB. So we nail everything down. We go in the attic and look. There's a couple places where we see shiners. In other words, we missed the rafters. Even though we had chalked all the rafters, the nails were missing the rafters because the rafters weren't necessarily where they were supposed to be. Okay? So what do we have to do then? We have to go back on, because now we have a picture showing people we missed a rafter. All right? Somebody who's going to have to approve this.
Right.
We got to go back on the roof, and we have to put another row of nails in and take a picture of it so that we can show them, here's where the shiners were, and here's our second row of 13 nails where we went back and nailed it. All right? So that's the documentation part of it.
And the reason for this heavy-duty nailing is simply to keep the decking on the roof.
Keep the decking on the roof. That's exactly right. So the fortified standard has proven that up to a high-end EF2, so now we're talking 130-ish, that deck is not going to come off that roof. I'll tell you how hard it is. We nail one of these sheets of plywood, and then we find out we've got a problem with something or there's some issue, and we want to go back and take it off. You're not going to get it off. You're going to tear the OSB apart before you will get it off of that roof with those 13 ring shank nails. So anyway, so now we've nailed it down, Chris. Now what are we going to?
Now we're going to seal it up.
Now we're going to seal it up, and that's our people commonly refer to it as zip tape. We don't use zip tape. We use CertainTeed self-adhered tape, specifically for the fortified products and for this roof systems. So now we seal up every joint in that OSB. All right, so now we've nailed it down.
How wide is this tape?
It's 4 inches wide.
Okay.
Well, it's nominal. It's like 3.875, whatever, but they call it 4-inch tape. Now we've sealed it up. All right, so we have nailed it down. We have sealed it up. If we stopped and walked away, all right, we don't put any underlayment down. We don't put any shingles on. We don't do anything. Okay, we stop. We just walk away, and a big storm comes through. The insured loss will be 70 to 80% less than it would have been if we had not, if we had left the roof the way it was.
Yeah.
Okay, if it just had a normal roof, if we have just nailed it down and sealed it up, the insured loss is reduced by 70 to 80%. Now we put the underlayment on, Chris.
That's right.
And now we've got to attach the underlayment the way they want it attached. Then we've got to put the drip edge on, which we call lock it in, okay? And then we get to actually doing a roof. So it's about 1:30, 2 o'clock, and we've got all that other. Now we're ready to start putting shingles on. All right.
And hold that thought because we got to take another break. We'll come back and put the shingles on that roof.
Okay.
We'll finish the view from the rooftop in the final segment of the show. You're listening to McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma on Freedom 96.9. We'll be right back. Homer Stacy was a wholesome, good American kid from Texas. At the age of 18, he enlisted in the United States Army Horse Cavalry and was stationed at Fort Bliss. Homer was fascinated with aircraft, so he went to flight school and became an Army Air Corps pilot. Homer Stacy flew a Convair B-24 Liberator, the Yankee Doodle Dandy, on November 11, 1943, when his crew, along with 31 other bombers, destroyed a ball-bearing plant in occupied France. On a return trip, a mechanical failure caused the Yankee Doodle Dandy to drop out of formation, leaving it vulnerable, and shortly thereafter, 7 German Me-109s shot down the plane near Andano, Italy. 4 crew members were killed on board, the others parachuted. One was captured and taken prisoner. Homer was among the remaining 5 who made it to Switzerland and returned to duty. Homer Stacy survived World War II, the Korean War, and retired after 23 years of service with many awards and commendations, including the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Purple Heart, and multiple air medals. Homer Stacy McCollum, Scott McCollum's dad. Scott McCollum is McRoof. McRoof.us is owned and operated by the McCollum family, an honorable, trustworthy red, white, and blue family. If you want to fortify your property, call McRoof.us at 405-877-4663. Ask for your complimentary roof inspection performed by a credentialed Hague residential inspector. McRoof.us, saving lives and protecting property by fortifying Oklahoma, one roof at a time. McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma, back on the air for the final segment of this morning's live show on Freedom 96.9. On this date in Beatles history, Ringo Starr replaced Pete Best as the drummer, had his first official concert with them 2 days later. And the rest is history. Now, we hear a lot about AI, artificial intelligence. Seems like a very new, trendy topic. Well, on this date in 1988, IBM introduced the software for artificial intelligence. 1988. Okay, so when we last left our intrepid hero, he was up on the roof installing a fortified roof on this client's house. He had nailed it down. He had sealed it up.
Yeah. And we had locked it in. And now we're putting on our Northgate Class 4 SBS modified asphalt shingle, and the homeowner standing down there, he says, now I get it. Now I understand. So anyway, that's what fortified is. And Randy, not this Randy, my client, he probably will never have to deal with replacing that roof, and certainly will be an event. He may lose some shingles, potentially with winds over 130 miles an hour. And of course, when we get beyond that by very much, now we're starting to get into more of the catastrophic type loss, but probably will never replace that roof.
Boy, isn't that something that we would all like to be
well,
able
it depends
to say?
on who you are. There are people in Orca that will say, well, I don't want to put on a roof I'll never get to replace. I want to put one on that I got to replace every now and then.
Yeah, right.
And people told me when I came
Bulldogs got to eat.
People told me when I came to Oklahoma, that's just not a business model that's going to survive in Oklahoma. That's exactly what I was told when I told everyone that I will build certainty, integrity roof systems. I would show every client a Class 4 impact-resistant roof, and I would properly ventilate every roof I built. They said, "Well, that's just not a business model that's going to last in Oklahoma." So anyway,
and that was
16
years ago. Yeah.
So anyway.
Okay, so McRoof University.
Oh, we don't need to worry about that right now. That's a pretty cool deal, though. That is a pretty cool deal, and it's going to become something that I am getting requests from all kinds of different places. I'm getting requests from insurance carriers to teach, can you show underwriting and loss prevention what they need to know about roofs? Can you show them how to interpret this data? Can you help us to understand what is required, what is really essential and urgent in terms of what we need to be telling our insureds, so that we can stay on the risk and that we can have some sense that we've mitigated our potential for loss, that kind of thing. So that's part of it. And then we get a lot from within the roofing space itself that is more around the business practices, the value proposition, the unequaled hospitality, unreasonable hospitality, things like that. So that's what McRoof University.
Okay, well, we have some weather moving into the state
We do?
later this week.
Wow, man.
I hope it doesn't sound like that. But after the storm now.
Yep. So
what-
it is.
what
We talk about it's hot. It's the dog days right now, and everyone needs to have their roof inspected. You need to have your roof inspected by a qualified roof inspector because you need to know and understand what the condition is of your roof today after all of the spring's storms, after the wind events and the hail events and the thunderstorm events. You need to know what the condition of that roof is. You need to know what the condition of that roof is, not because you necessarily need to be doing something in terms of an insurance claim or a roof replacement, but maybe there's some things that you need to do from a repair standpoint. You need to prepare. We're now preparing for this next winter. All right. We want to make sure that we get your roof in tip-top shape for next winter and to go through next season's storms. So now is the time to get your qualified roof inspection by a roof inspector who is not trying to sell you a roof, a credentialed inspector who is just trying to give you the data so that you know what repairs are recommended, if any, what your maintenance scenario will look like, what the expected remaining life of your roof system is, those kinds of things, so that you have that information to be armed with it for your insurance agent, your insurance company, for your own peace of mind in terms of what the conditions of your roof are. Don't wait until your roof is leaking in December or January when there's ice or snow on it to try to figure out what the issue is. We can anticipate those things right now. We can be proactive about this. This is like preventative care, right?
Absolutely.
Chris, I mean, that's really what it is. This is about being proactive in managing the conditions of your roof.
I would imagine the fellow who knocks on the door and says, we're working in your area right now and wondering if you want a free roof inspection, if that free roof inspection is going to come back with, oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, let me ask you what his motivation is.
Well, he wants to sell a roof.
He wants to sell something. All right.
Yeah.
He wants to sell something. He wants to. I mean, he's gotta earn his keep with his boss, or he's not going to get to keep doing what he does and getting his paycheck.
Right.
He's got to sell something. That's the bottom line. My people, RoofRx people, we don't have to sell anything. Now, RoofRx is not free. All right. RoofRx inspections are not free. You don't get a free annual physical from your doctor.
No.
Okay. You don't get a free RoofRx inspection, but you get actionable, accurate data that is not biased and presented to you by a roofing contractor who wants to sell you something or an insurance company that wants to deny you something. You get the data set that is the data set. All right. Now, we will annotate your data set. We will annotate your data set. We'll go through the images, and a credentialed inspector, all right, will annotate the images as to what they see. And they will explain to you what that is, what it means to you. And then we have a formula we will run things through in terms of the expected remaining life of your roof. We will write a repair scope for you and give you an estimate. Now, we're not necessarily the contractor who's going to be doing your repair, but we will write you an estimate for what you can anticipate. You then have the option to be able to use an in-network provider to do those repairs for you, and then you will also be offered the maintenance plan for your roof so that you have this actionable data year over year over year for your own purposes and for your insurance carrier for those purposes as well. So this is something anyone who's going to sell a home, anyone's going to go to market, this is valuable information for a real estate agent. This is something that could make your home more marketable in the buyer's eyes because you have a track record of the history of your roof, all right? And you have the information and the data. You have your roof in a maintenance protocol. Everyone knows it's in tip-top shape, and therefore it's more attractive relative to someone else's roof that's however old and no one's ever touched it to put on.
So if a Roof RX inspection is not free, what can someone expect to?
Christopher?
Yeah, so depends upon exactly what you're looking for, what sort of the actual size of the roof and what type of property it is. However, it is $449 for the inspection. However, that does include having a proper Hague certified inspector go through the imagery and ensure that everything does look correct. And the images that we are providing are absolute top notch. These are ones that have the chain of custody and all of the imagery that you require to have that peace of mind that when the ultimate time does come to where some sort of a catastrophic event does happen, we can go back to that data set and say, this is what the condition of the roof was on this date. On August 16th, 2025, this is what the condition of that roof was, and that is going to provide incredible amount of value to the process moving forward with an insurance company or whatever that process may look like.
It's so I want to just jump in because we just have so little time left. I see it as kind of like the baseline physical examination my doctor put me through when I turned 50.
That's exactly
put me through
what it is.
a whole battery of tests to have that baseline.
That's exactly
to
what
know
it is.
where we were starting from.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It gives you actionable information that you can take and then manage that roof for yourself.
Okay. Well, before we run out of time, I need to remind everybody that S&CM LLC, doing business as McRoof.us, legally operates under Oklahoma registration number 8000002, and that the registration applies to both residential and commercial roofing. Okay, now you can wrap it up.
Dad's wisdom?
Well, it's not quite. Not quite.
Okay.
Just some final thoughts on the Roof RX.
So in the Roof RX, you're going to have, in that, you're going to have your repairs that are going to be at a discounted rate, and then you're going to actually have, at the end of life cycle, you're going to have a rebate that will come back to you for a percentage of the money that you paid in for your inspect, repair, and maintenance protocols for as long as you've been in the program.
Okay.
All right?
Now it's time for Dad's wisdom.
Okay. Failure is the condiment that gives success its flavor. Truman Capote.
Truman Capote. All right, folks, this has been McRoof Fortifies Oklahoma on Freedom 96.9. Thank you, Scott McCullum. Thank you, Chris Guarnera. Thank you, Retro Radio Randy. Maybe we'll lift that probation next week.
I don't know. Thank you, guys. Have a great week, everybody.
KQOB Enid, Oklahoma.